Yeah, and again, and on your article on the spiritual wood chipper of modernity is, I really like this article because you were very candid with this article, because you even honestly, like, you like at one point you even said, so what is the solution? Like, you kind of like you could we got a glimpse of basically inside your head, as even you said, okay, what is the solution, right? And then you said sometimes there is no easy answer and no convenient fix. And again, I'm gonna go back to what I just stated, is that the person who's the murtad, you can't do anything about that person, right? The person who's realizing, or in this case, you're realizing, is that, okay, you're the one who's realizing that there has to be a solution. The person who's the murtad, who doesn't care, right? It's the person who is contemplating that what is the solution. They're the ones who are going to make the difference. And what I've stated before is that the way to move forward, and this is in the context of Muslims living in the West, is be outward with their Islam. Because if they don't be outward, they're going to implode.
Yeah.
Right? Simple as that. And sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I mean, U.S. election is also a prime example, because these things happen, and this is a prime time for Muslim leaders, living in states right now. All these celebrity sheikhs to come up and actually align the Western Muslims, with the rest of the Ummah. Because these elections, if you think about it, they're always about Palestine and Israel, and they right now Muslims are supporting Bernie Sanders just because Trump went out and tried to negotiate a deal without Palestinians' input, whereas Bernie says, okay, we're going to talk to them, and bring them on the table. Right, and then actually come up with a two-state solution, or even sometimes a one-state solution. I mean, it depends how you look at it, right? So there's no two different ways of looking at it, right? Same thing happened, you mentioned before, with Obama, because Muslims had high hope with him, and they thought of him as some sort of a messiah, and he's going to come and save the Muslims, make their lives better living in Western countries, or at least in particular contexts in North America, and also his foreign policy would also help the oppression of the Muslims elsewhere. Right, but that obviously did not transpire. Same thing with Bush. It was the same slogans which were raised by the Muslim leaders in states at that point in time too. And now it's Bernie Sanders. But so we are in deep slumber. So I mean, we are missing all these opportunities. Time is running out. Oppression is increasing. Day by day. So when you talk about, before, well, we need to start practicing Islam, otherwise you said, it's going to implode. We need to be more outwards, which is fine. But at the same time, we are not separate from the rest of the Ummah. We are one body, right? And anything we do in Canada or in States has a direct implication for rest of us, for rest of the Ummah. So how do you see the big picture now? I'm trying to come out of the localized version of Islam, and looking at, from a broader perspective, the Ummah itself, on a planetary scale. Like, where do you think we are right now, and where we are heading, and what we should be doing to actually change that trajectory, towards the implementation of Sharia? Because we are day by day moving away from it rather than moving closer to it. Right? I mean, that's what it seems like it. Voting, for example, has been made halal, sometimes even wajib now, which is basically antithetical to Islam completely, because you're making sovereign, or to mention before, humans as legislators, right? And now LGBT issues have been watered down. It's not even an issue anymore. Nobody even wants to talk about it. We should be actually allying with them to gain our minority rights. What else is left of Islam? It's a mouthful of a question, but
multifaceted question. Well, I completely disagree with the idea that voting is wajib. I don't consider that part of legitimate ikhtilaf.
So you have been radicalized.
Just to clarify it.
It's on.
Recorded now.
It's recorded now.
But I think that we are facing globally as an ummah these challenges. We have to identify, I think, and this is what I focus on, so I'm biased by my own personal experiences and my expertise. And I have always been on the belief that what we're facing is a organized force, an organized global force to take Muslims out of Islam, take Muslims out of their commitment to Islam, to modernize them and basically bring them under the wing or under the boot of Western hegemony. So this is something that has been taking place for over 200 years since the beginning of colonization. And it is a system. It is a thought system. It is a military system. It is an economic system that is designed in every capacity to stifle any expression of Islam, to stifle any kind of organization of the Ummah against those who want to destroy it, against those who want to attack it. And it's very sophisticated and it can be very subtle. And this is something that anyone who is aware of some Western literature, something like a novel like 1984, or Brave New World. What is interesting about those books is that they describe a dystopic situation where people are oppressed to such a large extent under the boot of evil authorities, malicious authorities, yet the people think that they're living free, wonderful, beautiful lives. And that is, exactly what Muslims experiencing throughout the world today. There's, like you said earlier, there's a deep slumber that we don't recognize the onslaught. So I think that a very practical step, and many groups and many Muslim orientations are aware of this and are doing this, waking people up from the slumber, recognizing this onslaught, recognizing this system, how it works in subtle ways that you don't always recognize unless you have, that's your specialty, or you've studied it, you've studied the history. This kind of awakening is necessary to even move, right, 1 inch towards valuing Sharia, to valuing Khilafah, to valuing anything, like to valuing the Ummah. We're the Ummah. This is the Ummahtimes, right? What's this Ummah? Like, we have our nation, we have our brothers. We don't care what's happening to the Uyghurs. We don't care what's happening to the Palestinians. We don't care about what's happening to the Rohingya or any of these other, the Yemen, to Syria, to all of these places. The list goes on, it goes on and on. So once that changes, that mentality changes, then bigger things can happen. And I always go back to the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ is mentioning the end of times, and he's saying that the day will come when all the nations, the non-believing nations, will descend upon you as if to a meal. And what's interesting about this hadith is when he asked about the cause, the Sahaba asked the Prophet ﷺ, is this because we're few in number? And the Prophet ﷺ, no, it's not a matter of numbers. You'll have plenty of numbers, but you'll be like the foam on like the sea after froth after a rainstorm. Weak, not anchored to anything, not just able to move with the tides. Okay, that's a very apt description. The Prophet ﷺ is seeing exactly our situation, but he takes it back to a spiritual state. Your enemies will not fear you. The heba, that's the word that he used, the heba will be taken from their hearts. And what heba means is a kind of respectful fear. Like, you see a man who is big and strong and he's a martial artist, you have like a respectful fear, like, don't mess with that guy, because there's consequences for messing with that guy. That kind of heba will be taken from the hearts of your enemies. They're not going to respect you. They're not going to fear you. This is different from a norm, like a khawf, like you fear a snake. Like, you don't respect the snake, it's a snake, you just fear it. But heba is what's going to be taken from the hearts of your enemies, which is what's going to allow them to just boss you around, push you around. And then you will also have this love for dunya in your hearts. You'll have a love, al-wahan. What's al-wahan? You'll have the love of the dunya, and you will hate death. So this is the heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Also to some extent, you can also argue that the heba was taken away, when the demise of the Khilafah in 1924, and you actually had a recent post too on your Facebook. I'm gonna just kind of quote it. in relation to the 96 years of darkness and without a shield we're living right now, i.e. Khilafah. As long as liberal secular modernism has a grip on the contemporary Muslim mind, the possibility of implementing Sharia, let alone Khilafah, is zero.